we got to get past this concept, this myth that trash equals waste. That is a misconception. So it turns out that waste is a human invention. All other creatures on the planet have figured out a way to live a zero waste lifestyle except us. So in reality, our waste is actually a resource. So instead of putting it in a landfill and burying it and forgetting about it, it's like the same thing as taking the money out of your pocket and putting it in a hole and forgetting about it. Let's treat that stuff like it's money. Let's treat that stuff like it's jobs. Let's treat that stuff like it's opportunities and products, okay? How do we do that? Well, the solution is going zero waste. And what does zero waste mean? The first thing you need to know about zero waste is it's not zero. Turns out 10% or less of your trash would be landfilled or burned, okay, to meet that zero waste criteria. Another way of saying that, of all the stuff that you produce and consume, 90% or more of it needs to be reduced, recycled, or reused in some fashion, okay? So, another myth we need to get past before we get much further into all this, recycling goes to the landfill. You probably heard some version of this. You thought this. You saw some truck pick up trash and recycling at the same time. So let's talk about that for a second, okay? I have good news for you. The reality is that in Omaha, recycling is still alive and well, asterisk, if you do it the right way. We're going to talk about the right way. Of course, the solution is recycle right. Now, let's talk about recycling. Another big thing that's changed with recycling that you really need to get on board with is no more plastic bags in the dumpsters or totes that we service. This goes for other haulers too. Plastic bags, when they go to a recycling facility, First Star is where we take our stuff, and First Star is the only legitimate place to take mixed, commingled material to in the Omaha area. When that happens, that stuff just goes to the landfill. So you can collect it in-house in a plastic bag, but you're just going to need to empty that into the dumpster or tote that we service and empty and ensure that that stuff actually gets recycled. Another myth that we call wish cycling. What is wish cycling? Okay, so that's, let's say you have a hair dryer and it's mostly made out of plastic and you know, okay, plastic is recyclable. How about I recycle this hair dryer? That's wish cycling. You don't really know, but you think, and so you do it. This happens all the time everywhere, and turns out it's really bad. That's called contamination. Other contamination is like food and liquids. And when there's too much food, liquids, and wrong recycled material, lots of stuff just ends up going to the landfill. Okay? So we got to clean that up and figure out what is and isn't recyclable. So the solution is follow these rules, and there's some simple things. All right? I'm going to make it really, really simple for you. The first thing is stop contaminating. The golden rule number one for that is dry and empty. So imagine a pop bottle, okay? And you want to recycle that. You want to make sure that you have that pop out of there. It doesn't have to be 100% dry, but if I can still take a gulp out of that pop, I need to empty that. Otherwise, if it has, let's say it's half full and you put that in the recycling container, it's going to pour out over other stuff and get sticky. The paper is going to get wet and it's not going to become recyclable, and other stuff's going to get sticky, and then it shows up and it may just get thrown in the landfill, okay? Yogurt cup, imagine that. They can get pretty dirty. If there's some residue, that's fine. If you have the ability to wash it out, even better. But the main thing is I just don't want to be able to take a bite out of what's left. So dry and empty, that's the goal. And another thing to keep in mind is that there's people on the other end that collect this stuff. So when you send it to a recycling center, there's someone that has to separate all that stuff out. So you want to make sure that, when I want to touch this on the other end, am I okay with having someone, fumble through my stuff? Is it in a good enough condition to do that? So another thing, stop recycling. Golden rule number 2, when in doubt, throw it out. So going back to that plastic hair dryer, if you don't know if it's actually recyclable, it's better, and this sounds weird, it's better to just throw it in the landfill. Because when you recycle the wrong things, it causes problems, it's really costly, it messes stuff up. And the recycling streams in our modern day are sensitive enough that it's better to recycle less if we know it's the right stuff than just pile it on. Okay, so now we're going to break it down into some simple categories of things that are recyclable, okay? So the first one is paper. Paper's really easy. So mostly if it's not We don't want anything that's wet or soiled, okay? Like you spilt your coffee on it, you wouldn't want to recycle it then. Things that are food related, like napkins or paper towels, not recyclable, they are compostable. And then, plastic screens and mailers and staples, all those things that you get generally associated with papers, that's fine. Office paper is fine, magazines fine. Paper's pretty easy. So the next one is cardboard. Cardboard's pretty simple. Nothing too wet or soiled, so like actually pizza box, for the most part, if it's in a decent enough condition, is recyclable or it's compostable. But for the most part, you want dry materials. Tapes, labels, staples in your cardboard boxes, that's totally fine. Here's something that's really important. Oh my goodness, people don't do this enough. Just flatten the cardboard. We get so many calls about our dumpster's full and it's actually some schmuck didn't break down the cardboard boxes so it just consumed everything. Do yourself and everybody else around you a favor, be a mature adult, flatten that, all right? So that's easy, cardboard's easy. And so those two items combined, when you're doing dual stream recycling, we call that the fiber stream, and we have a poster here that you can download on our website for free. You can see it right here, paper and cardboard. There you go on that. The next category, metals. So this is like your aluminum, your steel cans. You see here, you have aerosol cans. Those are fine as long as they're empty. You see things like your pop cans, your food cans. Again, the yam can is great, and some food syrup residue is okay. I just don't want to be able to have a yam bite out of that left. You'll see that there's some food residue on some of the items here, but just no food in of itself. Dry and empty as much as possible. All right, that gets us to, all the rest of that was easy, but now we're left with plastics, and plastics are complicated. So let's talk about how dumb plastics are. All plastics really want to get down into microplastics, and microplastics are everywhere. They're in our water streams, they're in our clothes, they're in our food supply, and I kid you not, they're swimming around our bloodstream right now. It's like the 1950s when everybody smoked and no one really knew what was going to happen, with the cancer wave. It's kind of like that. Like we all got these microplastics everywhere and no one's really sure what's going to happen next to our health. Okay, I'm not saying we're all going to get cancer, but the point is they suck, all right? The other thing that sucks about plastics is the coding system that has been developed in order to talk about the different types of plastics. So these scientists and manufacturers came up with this way so that they could communicate to each other about, oh, this is this type of plastic and this is this type of plastic, okay? That system was never meant for the general public to try to wade through and understand. But yeah, this is what we have. This is the coding lexicon that we have in order to know which plastics are and aren't recyclable. So as you can see here in this graph, we have 7 different major types of plastics, 1 through 7, okay? And just because it has that triangle with the arrows around it, that doesn't necessarily mean it's recyclable, okay? And depending on where you live, some of these are and aren't easily recyclable. But I'm going to give you sort of the general lay of the land. For most places, and especially in Omaha, Nebraska, if it's a plastic that's labeled, and you can look at the bottom, and sometimes it has the number. If it's labeled 1, 2, or 5, that's a really easy to recycle plastic generally. 3s, 4s, 6s, and 7s, not so much. We're going to talk about what we can do with that. So this is what plastics number 1, 2, and 5 look like. So think hard, rigid, bulky, water bottles, milk cartons, laundry detergent bottles, things like that. There's a lot of material to work with, and recyclers love that stuff, okay? And specific to Omaha, they can take the bottle caps, and so be sure to leave those on if you have them. Aseptic containers, things like this, milk cartons, juice boxes, just make sure they're as empty as you can get them is preferable. Those are pretty easy. And so those combined, if you're doing dual stream recycling, we call that the container stream. So that's your metal cans, your plastic bottles, your rigid plastic containers. Okay, but the reality is that many plastics aren't easily recyclable. The solution we have for that is the hefty energy bag, okay? Or refusing those types of not easily recyclable plastics altogether. But anyway, so here's a hefty energy bag, okay? Maybe you've seen these around town, these orange bags that people are putting their materials into. I collected this stuff at home. You can see this in this photo. These are energy bag items, so soft plastics. You can think of soft, flexible plastics like a chip bag, to-go styrofoam stuff that restaurants give you, plastic utensils, a lot of just different food packaging and things like that. Things that aren't hard and rigid and big and bulky that recyclers like, but the stuff that usually falls through the cracks and that's low-grade material that previously, if you were to put this in your recycling container, would be considered contamination, but if it goes into an energy bag, it's magically now recyclable, okay? So here's another graph to look at the different categories like plastic pouches and food wrappers and plastic bags and liners, plastic to-go products, like straws, and all sorts of things, okay? And the poster we have on our website, hillside.solutions, that's quick start. This is our energy bag poster, okay? So the three major lines is like styrofoams, soft flexible plastics, plastic lids, straws, utensils. That's an easy way to encapsulate it, summarize what's going on there. So earlier, I said no plastic bags in the recycling dumpster or tow. This is the exception to the rule. If it is an energy bag, if it's that's good to go. We want that in your recycling container